My name is Jillian Westcott. I am an instructor in the School of Fisheries at the Marine Institute, and I've been teaching face-to-face courses, online courses for about 8 years now, primarily in the disciplines of aquaculture and business, but I teach across a broad range of programming. I teach some industrial response short courses that we teach through our community-based education delivery unit. And so that's where we'd actually go out into communities around Newfoundland and Labrador and work directly with students and communities. I teach some introductory level courses to undergraduate students, as well as, in programs, more hands-on applied programs. So we have some advanced diplomas, and I teach in the advanced diploma in sustainable aquaculture at the Marine Institute. And I also teach master's level students as well. So those students pursuing, a research degree, a master's of science degree, but those we're taking fully online programs, and primarily in the Master of Technology Management program. I would describe my mode of instruction as active learning. So for me, I really try to focus in on student engagement and participation. That's my primary driver as a teacher, I would say. And there's a lot of different ways to do that to get the students to actively participate in their learning. So I try to, within my lectures, build a number of individual opportunities for them to do that throughout a lecture. But I also provide them some opportunities to work together in groups during a lecture as well. So it's all about that engagement with me as an instructor, with their, their colleagues in their courses as well. And so I use a bunch of different tools to do that. One thing I'd like to use from an individual perspective is I really love using the polling feature in Brightspace. And the polling feature is a really great way to allow students to actively participate during a lecture. So essentially, I can embed questions, multiple choice questions, true and false questions directly into my PowerPoint slides. So students will see those during a lecture, and I can pause and initiate a poll, and the students can record their individual responses to those questions. So that's a really great way to get them to actively participate during a class. I've used it as well to do some quick check questions at the end of a lecture. So we'll use those. We may do 4 or 5 multiple choice questions at the end of a lecture, and that allows the students an opportunity to actively engage in the learning as well. I may even do a quick quiz at the start of another lecture to test something I tested a lecture before as well, and we can use the polling feature to do that as well. So that's just an individual thing I like to use for active learning. With respect to group ways of doing that, I really have used a lot the breakout room feature in Brightspace. And that is a really great way to get students to provide them an opportunity to work together with their classmates in smaller groups, all within the Brightspace platform. But I can take a large class, 20 or 25 students, and very quickly, in a matter of seconds, divide them up into smaller groups and basically move them out into classrooms within my larger Brightspace classroom. And so once they're in there in these smaller groups, they can do some problem-based learning to work on a problem I've assigned. They often feel more comfortable turning on their cameras and engaging with one another and just actively participating in that learning, and being involved in more peer-to-peer learning in the smaller classroom, that kind of environment. And that's been really great. I can jump in and out of those virtual classrooms like I would if they were sat at a table in a classroom. And I can engage with them even when they're in those rooms as well. And so then once those breakout rooms are finished, we go back into the main lecture area, and then we can have a facilitated discussion about those questions as well. So that's a tool I like to use quite a bit. I like to use videos throughout my lecture as well. So I would, post a link to a video in the chat feature in Brightspace, have the students click on a video, they'll go out and watch a short, 2-minute video, come back into the classroom, and we'll have a discussion about the video. Or I may show them a video after we've covered course content, just to reiterate that course content as well. So I'm using different methods of instruction for different types of learners as well, and trying to use that mix. I've used a really cool tool recently that some of my other colleagues have tried as well. It's a tool called Mentimeter. And so I can set that up outside of Brightspace, but I can access it in Brightspace by sharing my screen in Brightspace. And it's a really cool tool that allows us to work together as a group to create these word clouds to brainstorm together. And it's a really neat tool. So students I give them a code, I post it in the chat, they go to menti.com, they put in this code, and then we can work together to build these word clouds about a particular topic. So that's a really great way to get them actively thinking and participating and working together. And then I can use those word clouds throughout my instruction as well. So there's lots of great tools to use, but those are some examples of some that I have available. It's definitely been challenging during this whole pandemic to stay in touch with students, definitely. And I think I would use different methods depending if it's students in like a synchronous type course versus asynchronous programming, because I teach in both. So for my asynchronous students, to stay connected with them, I love to use weekly updates. So for every course, I'll do a weekly summary at the start of every week as a news item, and they know what we're going to cover that week, what deliverables they have due at the end of that week. But for them to connect with me regularly, it's about being responsive to them and within a short period of time. So they are often, through some of our online programming, working professionals that may work asynchronously in the evening. So we're not all working at the same time on this course. So for them, it's really important that I respond to them really as quickly as I can to any questions they have. So they know, and I write this up in the course outline that I'm very responsive, within 24 hours if they need a response to a question, and more often than not, even faster than that. So they know I'm there to respond if they have any questions. So that would be an example for my asynchronous students. The students working synchronously, it's really, open door policy is hard to have when you're not actually physically there. But it's pretty easy with some of those tools in Brightspace to set up meetings, to have an open door time frame when students can set up meetings. I keep my schedule quite open, so they know up front on day one that they can contact me anytime. They can call me. They can set up a video chat, and we can talk if they have any questions. So those are some things I like to do. With my master's students who are doing research and writing theses, and particularly during the pandemic where it was very challenging and we couldn't get together for our weekly meetings. I use Zoom quite a bit, and we could still maintain that weekly contact. We could still see each other, using that tool, and we could get in and share the thesis document and work on editing that together as well. So I'm really happy to say we didn't really miss a beat when it came to those students, that I engaged with them pretty much through the whole thing. So those were some of the tools that I used. The CITL Support Center has been amazing, and I don't know how most of us would have gotten through all this movement to online learning without their support, and I say that very sincerely. The chat online feature was something I used quite a bit, and that was, there's a technical person available for a live chat pretty much 7 days a week. So any technical questions I had, and I was learning as I was going, lots of cases. So having that technical support there on hand and knowing it was there was something that I availed of and I used quite a bit. And so that was really great. They worked really quickly to get a bunch of information sessions together for instructors and professors as well, just to show us the different tools that were available in Brightspace and how to move content in and do those sorts of things as well. So that was great. That was really a great resource. Even within the Marine Institute, I've been so fortunate because I have a bunch of faculty colleagues within the Marine Institute that have exceptional instructional design expertise, and they are the ones who know everything about Brightspace. They know what works, what doesn't work. They have developed a really great set of best practices for a number of the different tools within there as well. So they really rallied together, when we had to make that switch really quickly to help us, as instructors, figure out how we're going to take this content and move it into online when we normally deliver it in the classroom. What does that look like? They give us a bunch of really great ideas to make that happen, and give us information sessions on how to use those tools in Brightspace to our advantage. And so they were, incredible during that time for sure, and still very, very supportive. Making the switch, particularly a lot of our programming at the Marine Institute is very hands-on programming. And so to lose those lab components, we didn't want to lose that. And so we couldn't give students the experience of the hands-on program in the traditional sense, but we made every effort we could to still maintain a large portion of the lab components of those courses. And so I worked with, I'll give you an example, an exceptional lab demonstrator here last fall. Sean Fortune was his name, and he came in during the pandemic to videotape every lab for this introductory biology course that he and I were working on together. And so he was really responsible for the lab component of that course. So he would come in, he'd videotape himself going through those labs. Then he'd create these YouTube videos. We would post links to the YouTube videos in Brightspace, in addition with some additional videos and some supplementary materials. And our expectation was that the students would then go in and watch the video, which may be 30 to 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And then we would set up a live synchronous session the week following that video. And so Sean and I would log into Brightspace. The students would log in as well, having watched that video. We would put up the lab manual, in digital format, and we would have our pictures of our videos up on the screen, and we would have just an open session. So Sean would lead those sessions. He would go through the lab, step by step. referring back to various points in the video. The students had the opportunity to engage with us directly, to ask questions of us related to those labs as well. And then they could go off and work on those labs, work on their write-ups. They downloaded this simple app on their phone that allowed them to scan in their completed labs. They easily put them in the Dropbox and Brightspace. I created an electronic rubric, and I can give them detailed feedback just like I would if I was in the lab with them on those lab assignments as well. So it worked quite well. Not exactly the hands-on experience that that they would like, obviously, but we did the best we could under those circumstances.